So back in the previous generation, we had Dead Island from Techland on the Xbox 360, the PlayStation 3 and PC. It was cool, it was rough, but it was a cool zombie apocalypse game with actually a really good story attached to it. Dying Light doesn't really have that kind of a story, does it, Al?
Dying Light has got really good things going for it, but story is definitely not one of them. It's just so, cliched. You dropped into this city overrun by zombies, and he's got these ulterior motives, but he also wants to be this good guy, and it's just one of those cases where he's just sent on everyone's fetch quest, and it never really comes together. There's no characters that really resonate with you as the player or are really that deep, and like you said, Carl Crane's just so bland.
You're a lot more dependable than most of these drunks. Rise is waiting for you. Maybe we can work together again sometime.
God, I hope not.
So in terms of story, this isn't a classic like George Romero's Day of the Dead or The Walking Dead or any other kind of shuffling dead, now is it?
Yeah, exactly that. And as a game it works, but if you're coming to Dying Light looking for a compelling zombie tale because you've watched The Walking Dead or something, you're going to be disappointed, I think, in that regard.
So while the characters of this world they're populated aren't really memorable in any way whatsoever, I've got to give it to Techland. The city of Harran itself is fantastic. It's magnificent. I loved going through the slums and the upper richer classes of this place. It was just such a great environment. It was so beautifully detailed. It was just begging to be parkoured, I don't know how to pronounce it properly, to be jumped around in like some sort of modern day Spider-Man. What do you think?
Yeah, the slums of Harran are really great, primarily because they give you so much freedom to, run above zombies. You can run through buildings. A lot of them are open and explorable, and then just the ground as well. You've got so many options to run past people or just create routes for yourself. And I think that combined with the game's pretty excellent parkour, it makes for movement itself and exploration quite fun.
But when you start this game, you're absolutely terrible at, clambering around over buildings and rooftops with the parkour system. You aren't Spider-Man, you aren't, Mr. Miracle. You're not going to be escaping these situations with some sort of miraculous fleet-footed agility. You've got to work for it, you've got to earn it. It's something that the game constantly levels you up in. And I kind of like starting out, as a completely helpless survivor in that way.
The sense of progression that the game's got going. It's weird that you feel terrible at the beginning, and gradually as you play, you realistically feel like you're getting better both at the game and your character's upgrading skills-wise as well. It's really well done.
That being said, there is more to the game than just the parkour system. There is combat. You can, pick up weapons, swing it around, take down a zombie or two, even some of the bigger guys. It's all part of one of your three main skill trees, such as the survivor skill tree, your agility, and your power. But even when you've got these weapons, even when you've got something that's ludicrously powerful and that can easily break the game, you're not going to want to fight. You're going to want to run away. That's the kind of game this is. It's so heavily focused on surviving, not triumphing over these zombie hordes.
Definitely not. I'm pretty much finished with the game, and near the end of the game I was picking up some ridiculously powerful weaponry, but if you're stuck in a horde of zombies, you're still gonna die because you've got your stamina to worry about when you swing your weapon, so eventually you get tired and then you're pretty much useless, and just a sheer number of zombies will take you down really quickly because they grab you, they try to bite you. Bigger zombies cause havoc with bigger weapons and more specialized attacks, so it's definitely a game where flight is better than fight, and that goes for the entire length of the game, which is really great. Actually, it's a nice change of pace.
And Dying Light isn't exactly an easy game either. There's a steep learning curve here that you've got to get through. If you die, for instance, you're going to lose points from your survivor skill tree. If you die more than once, you're losing more points, and so on and so on. After several missions I've just repeatedly failed, I've pretty much lost an entire level's worth of survivor skill points that I've been working towards for a few hours now. But I'm not too cross about that. That's my own fault. That's the kind of game that Dying Light is.
Yeah, there's a good trade-off between running away from fights you aren't going to win, because again it hinders your progression. And early on in the game, it feels overly punishing because you're fairly useless, especially when it comes to fighting human enemies. But as you progress through the game, it becomes more natural, and you feel like it is a fair punishment for you dying, because dying is really much really up to you. You can avoid death 9 times out of 10, especially at night. So when you die, you should feel stupid, and the game.
Oh, nighttime. Let's talk about that. Now, if Dying Light didn't have this other side to it, it would pretty much be another standard post-apocalyptic zombie massacre kind of game, something we've seen plenty of times. But when you're in the game, when the sun goes down, that's when it gets tough. That's when the more viral zombies appear. They're tougher, they're stronger, and even though you've got some boosts of your own, even though you're faster, even though you're stronger, you're still going to die very easily. Playing at night adds such another layer to Dying Light that it's just going to leave you breathless and your hands sweaty, and you're most likely going to have to put on some more deodorant afterwards.
Yeah, I've actually now coming towards like the middle and near the end of the game, I've tried to stay out at night as much as I can, because it, as you said, it doubles your agility points, it doubles your power points that you earn. And if you get spotted and evade those volatiles, which are, I mean, you can't kill them. I haven't even killed one. If you evade them, you get a huge XP bonus. So it's a nice trade-off for, you know, risk and reward. But God, it's scary. Nighttime is so scary. Those volatiles, when they chase you and they grab you, or you see their faces, Jesus, that's where Dying Light excels at horror. You know, not the jump scares or anything like that.
Have you even tried fighting one of those volatile zombies, the ones that come out at night? I have, and it did not end well. I mean, I've just given up at the moment in the early levels of the game, of going out at night until I can level up properly so I can survive them better. I mean, but you've leveled up more. You've actually gone toe-to-toe with them.
You can't fight those things, and it's so tense running away because you can hear them behind you. I mean, you can hold down a button so that you swing 180 and see that they're running at you, and it's a really nice feeling to, you know, be running on the rooftops and jump the fence, and then you're in a safe house and they're all like clamor against the gate hoping that you'd come out and they can kill you. It's really tense, and it nails it. Dying Light really nails that nighttime feeling.
One thing that the game doesn't do well is set itself up properly. The entire intro sequence, it feels lackluster, it's boring, it's awkward. But once you get past it, once you get past that sequence and you get your proper freedom, you get some day and night to go with your gameplay, it's much better, especially if you're struggling to justify why you're playing through all this the whole time, don't you think?
No, and I played that last year during the preview, and about half of my preview time was just this tutorial, and it's boring, it's slow, and I've seen a lot of people complaining that they've been put off by the game just from the first, 1 or 2 hours. But thankfully it gets a lot better. It opens up quite nicely when you start picking up some nice loot as well. You've got that aspect where you want to always get better weapons, almost like a Borderlands type effect. And the game itself mechanically is super sound. The combat's a bit iffy still, like aiming at the head and aiming at the torso doesn't really seem to, have much of a difference on whether things die quicker. But overall, the parkour itself is just phenomenal. And considering you can't fast travel anywhere, it's really good.
Yeah, you're going to need to get used to that lack of fast travel in the game, but at least you get a grappling hook, which is so cool to use.
The grappling hook is so much fun because it makes you feel like you're playing a first-person Just Cause, but it brings so many issues because, like you said, you'll sometimes your grappling hook will go through a window and then like clip you through an entire building or something like that. And the game, I mean, for such it's a pretty big, dense open world, so there are problems to be expected. But yeah, some zombies are. I mean, I used to kick off some zombies like off a ceiling, and I jump to the next building, and the identical zombie would be there, like clothes, face, everything. So it's a bit jarring and takes you out of the immersion. But otherwise, the game looks. I'm playing on PC, so I've maxed the thing out, and sometimes at dusk and dawn it looks gorgeous, like when you're just looking across the slums of Haran.
But you know what made Dead Island such a great game? It was the cooperative play. Having 2-3 other guys with you to help you survive the zombie apocalypse, that really made the game stand out. That made it so much fun. And that's something that's being repeated in Dying Light. So how has your cooperative play experience been so far, Al?
Yeah, the co-op is actually really cool. It makes the game much better. Like, the game is really great single player, but when you bring in a friend who is completely unpredictable, it changes things up. Like, I play personally quite quiet. I don't like using my gun. I don't like making things explode. So, because they bring all those viral towards you. And if you're playing with someone who really likes hitting explosive barrels or likes throwing firecrackers everywhere, then it changes things up for you, and it adds to the tension because you never know what your partner's going to do. But having someone around is also a lot of fun. Like if they miss a jump and you have to go save them, or if you thrust into those co-op challenges that force you to like kill zombies or get to a certain point in a certain amount of time, it's really fun. And I think if you have the choice, you should play Dying Light as a co-op game as much as possible, because you can play all of the story as a co-op game.
So Al, what's the verdict? Give us your closing words. Give us some numbers. Give us a review score that we can drool over for this kind of game.
I mean, it's a great game mechanically, and I think sticking with the score of 7.5 is really fair, because you've got a game where the parkour is solid, the combat's solid, the exploration is good, but it just falters in the story. The story itself is completely throwaway, the characters are throwaway, and if you're coming for a good story, it's going to disappoint you. But as a game, it's far better than Dead Island. It's one of the best games Techland has ever made, and I think even games like Mirror's Edge could look at Dying Light and think, that's how parkour is done right. So I think people should pick it up. It's a solid game.
Just find out what this will cost us and come back in one piece.